This is Anthony Nayagan. I'm the host of this podcast, Becoming Impactful. I work with leaders, innovators, and creators to help them unlock their divine identity and lead with purpose. My focus is on merging ancient spiritual wisdom with modern leadership requirements to foster real, sustainable innovation. I'm also the author of Ancient Wisdom and Modern Leadership, a guide to living and leading as partners in creation. So, this podcast is where we explore bold ideas, honest conversations, and timeless insights that move us beyond the ordinary. So today we have a fascinating guest. His name is Chris Michael. Is that how I pronounce your
It's
name?
actually Michelle. Yeah, Chris Michelle.
Michel. Okay. I'm sorry. It is Chris Michel. And let me introduce him. He's a fascinating gentleman. And he is a dynamic training director at Service Nation, that's his company, where he brings over 30 years of experience in the trades, serving as sales, operations, training, and leadership across small businesses and, of course, multi-million dollar enterprises, um, with a proven track record of training. See, Chris has designed and led workshops on groundbreaking topics like leadership, emotional intelligence, team communication, and hiring strategies using DISC profiling. He's the author of the Red Chair Experience and a sought after coach mentoring top salespeople, technicians, business owners, and leadership teams. Chris, his insights are regularly featured in webinars and events such as AMP, AHR Expos, and podcasts like HVAC Revealed, where he shared leadership secrets, innovative business growth strategies, and candid discussions on several areas, including mental health. And he even help his clients navigate through the pandemic era challenges. Driven by his passion for helping home service professionals reach their fullest potential, Chris blends in practical tools with human centered coaching. Whether you are a frontline technician, aspiring manager, or established business leader, you will benefit from his actionable strategies and his relatable style in particular. So, welcome, Chris Michel. Say hello to the audience,
Hello.
please.
Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're most welcome. You're most welcome. So, how are you? Where are you located in the
I'm
US?
located in Woodstock, Georgia, which is about 30 miles northwest of Atlanta.
Awesome. Oh, that is a beautiful area of the country, isn't it? Quite rolling hills and oh man, it is. Yeah, it is very, very beautiful out there. All right. Now, um, I'm going to start with some quick questions. Um, is there anything you want to add to the introduction I gave you? Feel free to do that
Oh
now,
gosh,
please.
I think you covered it. I think you more than covered it. But thank you. It's very kind, very nice words. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. All right. So let's kind of go with the questions and see from the field to the classroom. Um, you have had Diverse career spanning sales, operations, and leadership in the trades. How have these experiences shaped your approach to training and coaching at Service Nation?
I think a lot of it comes down to um, something that Simon Sinek and other leaders talk about, which is becoming the leader that you wish you had or that you really want or need. And that really resonates with me that having all these experiences of being in the field, being on the front lines, meeting with the customer, selling the products, servicing the products, all of those things are important. But as we continue to grow and change, part of what we have to do is figure out what's within us that can help us to get better. And sometimes we don't know what we don't know. So as I've learned about leadership and how to effectively coach people and help draw out the best in them, I just draw back on those experiences thinking, gosh, I wish I would have had a leader do this for me. I wish I would have had a leader ask me this or share with me about these things, right? Vulnerability is part of leadership, and openness and being able to effectively get the best out of people, right? I mean, that's what leadership is being in charge of those people and caring for those people and helping them to get better at what they do.
That's fascinating. I'm going to come back to what you said now later on if I get another chance, okay? But let's move on. Your book, The Red Chair Experience, it delves into personal growth and leadership. Can you share how the principles from your book influence your current training and the methodologies you use?
It, really, again, comes back to when I was writing the book, it was about the experiences that I had in life. And I would take a simple quote and I would work in how that affected me or what that meant to me or the experiences that I had and the lessons that I learned from that. And then I shared that with my audience. And at the end of each segment, at the end of each day, there's a daily question that gets people to think a little bit deeper, right? It's not just enough to say, here's all this experience, but what about you? What are ways that you can do these things? And so I've I've been able to take those and apply that to even the way that I train. So the way that I train is very much like kind of like my book, right? I want to bring people in with real vulnerable stories and not for the sake of being vulnerable, but showing people that vulnerability is not it's not a horrible thing. It's actually a good thing, and
Yeah,
people can benefit
yeah.
from being open and honest with who they are and what their struggles are.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Okay, let's come back to the focus on learning. Uh, See, in today's rapidly evolving industry, continuous learning becomes imperative, um, both among professionals and rank and file. Uh, how do you ensure that there is not just continuous learning, but continuous interest in continuous learning? So, how do you develop that interest?
Well, you had mentioned the DISC assessments that we utilize, and it's three different assessments that are. It's not just DIS and C, which a lot of people are familiar with, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
so it's not just that because that's just how people show up. We also talk about studies that were done by Dr. Edward Spranger and Dr. Hartman, which bring into
Uh-huh.
play values and attributes. And when you look at the person as a whole and you not just look at how they show up, but why do they do the things they do, which is the values Dr. Spranger talked about. And then Dr. Hartman talked about the attributes, how we view the world external to us, how we view ourselves inside of that world, and then how we view the system as a whole. And when you look at all of those things, it starts to help you to understand how to communicate and how people work and how they process. And so keeping people interested is obviously very important when you're trying to train, right? So there's different ways to train people, but when you understand why people do the things they do or what motivates or inspires them, and part of this is the training that I do is I ask questions that help me to understand what inspires them or what motivates them, and I utilize that information to help foster their growth. So it's taking the information and learning about other people. It's having a genuine interest in learning about other people so that we can take that information and utilize it in a way that makes sense so that they can get what they need out of the class or out of the training or out of the because again, people don't know what they don't know. And so if you don't know that this is important to you to do your job, then you may not be interested in doing it, right? It may not resonate with you. And so there's there's a lot of different ways that I do it, but that's one of the ways that I utilize some of the tools that we have available to us, which, like I said, is this DISC assessment that we use for a lot of training. And I'm able to look at the information and understand why do people do the things that they do and what's their view on themselves versus the world and how does that impact the way that they learn.
All right. Um, you just touched on the concept uh, of holistic training in the process of learning. And you stressed on the relevance of observing the learner as an individual, his personal interests, and how to tailor your coaching based on their interest and based on their personal aspiration. Actually, this is fascinating. This is um, not only fascinating, this is really how training and coaching is meant to be. I'm sorry for kind of a lecturing here, because you see, traditionally, um, see, the coaching and training is about making uh, a square peg fit into a square hole. Um, so it actually is kind of defining the peg and the hole so it can both fit together. Um, yeah, but what if, there is a holistic approach in the whole itself? What if the whole becomes so expansive in learning about its audience, so that even if it is not square, the square pegs can still fit in.
Well, I think a lot of times though, Anthony, as trainers, people fail to realize it's not just about getting through the material. It's not just making sure that I spit out 2 hours worth of material or 2 days worth of material. It's about making
Yeah,
sure and understanding that each individual that is is a part of this training gets what they need out of it and not what I think that they need out of it because what I think may be way different than what they really need.
interestingly, you gave an opening um, to. Oh, and then my next question, it's about how you see AI in coaching. See, artificial intelligence is making waves in various sectors. How are you planning on leveraging AI tools to enhance your coaching and training programs?
Well, a couple of things. I utilize AI with my what I call my non-natural talents. My non-natural talents are things that we typically call weaknesses. And my weaknesses are things that I tend to overthink. I tend to be a perfectionist. I tend to um, struggle with the initial getting this idea off the ground. And so I need people to either bounce ideas off of, and that's what I use AI for, is as a bounce off, a thought gatherer, an information helper to help me to gather some information to start building a class that I want to teach on leadership. Okay. And utilizing the tools to, like AI, to do that helps me get better at what I do because I can utilize different types of AI tools. Some now have the deep think or reasoning, and I tend to be a deep conversationalist, and so I like to dive deeper. And so I'll ask AI things that help me to think a little bit deeper. And that's what I love about using AI in a training or in a coaching setting. I wouldn't use it in a one-on-one coaching setting. What I would do is I would say, help me to understand this is who Anthony is. This is what Anthony likes. If I have your disc assessment, I say, okay, here's Anthony's disc assessment. Help me to understand the ways that I can help and coach and work with him. And then it spits out this information that is the beginning, and that's the key. This is the beginning of the information that I can utilize to have a conversation with you, to coach you, to train you, to work with you, right? So I start to understand what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what are your natural talents, what are your non-natural talents. And as a result, I can start to coach you in a different way than I would Sally, who's over here with way different values, way different disc assessment, right? Total overall. So I can utilize AI to help me to understand and maybe deeper think about some of these things that I'm doing before I even get into a coaching session.
That's fascinating. But let me ask you, okay, how do you envision AI transforming the landscape of training and self learning and continuous learning and continuous interest at the rank and file? In other words, how do you think contractors can use AI to transform their knowledge
Well, they're
base?
already doing it. They're already using. We're already using AI in the
Tell me more.
trades, specifically in HVAC. We have tools that are VR tools that train technicians how to work on a piece of equipment without the risk of electrocution, without the risk of damaging equipment or getting hurt themselves. We have these tools that we're already using. But as you're talking, there's other tools that we can use. We're using AI to help set up an online class that is a 10-minute, 20-minute segment. It's part of an LMS, right? A learning management system that people can go to and they want to learn about this subject or this idea or this concept or how to train or how to be better at training, right? We're working with AI to have these tools that can be involved in self-learning and help people individually with where they're at.
That's fascinating. See, with the advent of AI, analytics, personalized learning, um, it it has become rather transparent nowadays, or it can be made more transparent in the future. Now, how would you go about incorporating such matrix, such analytics, and to make it personalized to every contractor that you're dealing with?
Well, I think you can set up metrics that would help you to understand individual needs. You can use test in, test out
Yeah.
type of things, and you can utilize that as a part of the AI tool to say, Chris is here, Anthony is here. So Anthony doesn't need as much, or he needs it in a different format because of this, this, and this. I think there's plenty of tools that we could do that we can utilize that can help us to understand where people are at. We have to understand, just like a class that I teach, I have to understand where every person is at in the room before I can teach them. Because for me to just blanket teach people doesn't make any sense. And now I'm not teaching or training a class. I'm actually teaching from a stage, right, where there's hundreds of people, and I'm not going to be able to effectively teach each and every individual in that room. When I do training classes, it's far different. But what you're talking about, when we utilize these AI tools, we've got to understand the person that we're dealing with, right? So I believe that there are, just like with anything else, the information that we can upload or input into the system to help understand, how does Anthony learn? How does Chris learn? How does Sally learn, right? How do these people learn, and what are the areas that best work or are best suited for them? I'm an auditory learner, or I'm a visual learner. So I need to see things or I need to hear them. For me, reading something is much more challenging. I can do it, but don't put me in front of a 20-page article and expect me to just have it figured out in the next 20 minutes. I can't do that. If it's on audio, I can do that. I can do that in 20 minutes.
Oh, so you are leveraging multimedia. That's awesome. Now, it does, it does. Let me take it, to another kind of a question. See, you have direct access to rank and file, okay? And feedback from them is imperative to the management. Now, how do you ensure that there is real and honest feedback in your system, where the supervisors can learn from the contractors, managers and architects and people higher up, the engineers? How can they learn from this feedback? How do you integrate that into your system?
Well, there's a couple of things that I do with training classes, and I realize that I have to create a safe environment for people. Okay.
Mhm.
I have to create an environment that people feel safe sharing whatever it is that's on their mind, the good, the bad, the ugly. Doesn't matter. Tell me if I'm no good. Tell me if I'm not right for you. Tell me if I'm not speaking your language. But also tell me if I am doing well. So we have to, from a leadership standpoint, we have to create an environment that is open and honest, and that starts with vulnerability on our part. And vulnerability isn't necessarily just um, in some people's minds this wide open, um, nasty looking thing, right? This is, again, back to what I said initially, which is, um, we have to set up an environment that people want to learn in a way that they've needed to be led, and we have to be the leaders that we wanted in the first place, or needed. And we have to be that for these other people. We have to be the leaders that they want or need, and the only way we can do that is if we are giving them an environment that's full, that is safe, but number two, that they also feel like, hey, I can share anything and it's not going to come back on me. For so long, I worked in environments where it wasn't safe to share what you really thought, because if you shared what you really thought, then you were going to be blackballed and you were going to be put aside, right? And you were going to be put out. Nowadays, we've got so many more opportunities to share information. And so we have to, number one, we have to set up a safe environment. Number two, we have to ask the right questions. And number three, we can't be afraid of the answers, because we're not perfect. And the sooner we realize that we're not perfect, the better off we're going to be. And I struggle with that. Like I said before, I struggle with that perfectionistic mindset that says, oh, I've got to do this just the right way. I know I'm going to make mistakes, and I do on a regular basis. How are we relaying that to our people right? To the people that we get the opportunity to lead so that we can learn the things that we need to learn, so that we can be a better person, a better company, a better whatever it is. But we have to do those things. We have to set up that environment. We have to ask the right questions, and then we have to be willing to sit with the answers and do something about them.
Chris, let me ask you one more question. What would you tell people who are entering into this industry, as contractors, as leaders? What would you say to them in the emergence of AI, in the emergence of continuous learning, in the emergence of all such things, in relation to what you said earlier about leadership? How would you tell them, well, this is what the definition of leadership, and based on this leadership, how they should enter into this industry? Just give it some thought.
Well, um, again, leadership for me is something that's pretty important because if you're a leader, you get the opportunity to be in charge of other people, and that's a huge task. That's not something to be taken lightly. We had a management system that we called leadership that was part of the Industrial Revolution. And when the Industrial Revolution was simply, I need you to be in a position to watch this machine to make sure that the machine does what it's supposed to do. And if you can keep up with that, great. If you can't keep up with it, I just find somebody else to put in that place. It was a management of a particular task. And it wasn't leading people. It had nothing to do with people. It wasn't people centric. And nowadays we are so much more people centric, especially on the industrial side, especially in the even in the manufacturing facilities. We have to understand that without human beings, we can get so much done with machines, but there's still so much that needs to be there. There is a human touch that needs to be involved. And being a leader for whether it's industrial or residential heating and air conditioning or any of these things, um, we get the opportunity to be in charge of these people. And so we have to understand the weight of that. And as we understand the weight of that, and we now we start to look into, well, what can you do to get into the business? What can you do to utilize AI and all these other things? We'll understand that AI is a tool. It's a fantastic tool if it's used properly, but it is just a tool. And until we learn how to properly use the tool, we probably should back up a little bit and learn how to use the tool. Even in our world, heating and air, plumbing, electrical, we can use AI for a number of things, whether it's answering a phone call or technical help or anything along those lines, right? Technician in the field can pull up a video and see how to do this through AI or through YouTube or different things like that, right? We've got these different tools that are available to us. If we don't use it properly, though, if we're not utilizing the information, if we're not putting in the right information, we've got people building their own AI tools now, right? And you're
Mhm.
familiar with this. You're building your own AI tools, right? And the impact of
Mhm.
that, you have to put in the right information because as we know, the internet is a wonderful place, but it's very scary because some of the information may not be true. And so, are we feeding the right information to help it to understand when we ask the question, the kind of input that we're looking for? And so, again, it's a tool, and understanding that there are many tools that we have in our tool bag. And literally or metaphorically, we have all these tools in our tool bag. Question is are you using them properly? And so, when we learn to do that, and I'd love to get your input on that, but when what are you seeing from an AI perspective as you talk about with your book, Ancient and Modern Wisdom, right? How do you take those things and you utilize that? Because you're talking about training and utilizing AI, and how does that all come together from your perspective? Because now you're talking about a little bit different tool, right? You're talking about an AI tool to help teach, if you will, the basics of life, not just a trade, not just a specific um, job, if you will, right? But just life skills.
Wow. Okay.
The tables have been turned, Anthony. The tables have turned.
Tables are turned. And that's a loaded question. Okay. See, when I'm talking about wisdom, wisdom isn't ancient because it is outdated. It is ancient because it is timeless. But the true wisdom persists in the present moment. It is not about looking backward, but it's about tapping into a deeper level of intelligence that transcends time. All right, sorry, that is a loaded answer, but let me kind of clarify that. Um, Here I'm talking about a different level of intelligence that transcends time and space. See, the human intelligence as it is bound by space and time. See, I mean, how do we learn things? Okay, let's say, from a phenomenon, how do we learn a phenomenon as we go forward? See, we normally will break it down, we fragment it, to the extent there can only be two outcomes, right or wrong, plus or minus, yes or no. Is it a good definition or bad definition? So the outcome only becomes binary. It's based on that binary outcome as source intelligence. We keep on building other binary models on top of it. So that's how we build knowledge. See, and I call this way of building knowledge is based on reductionism. Now, the problem with the reductionism, see, we are sidelining a lot of phenomena, a lot of aspects, so that we can bring it down to, the point of definition where the outcome could be either yes or a no, or right or wrong. Is it the best or not the best? What is it? So the outcome can only be two. In that definition, in the process of defining it, we are losing a lot of things. See, that's the quality of the intelligence we have now. But here is the thing, AI can replicate this intelligence effortlessly. You see, because AI is, based, the fundamental to a computer system is a switch that is on or off, yes or no, zero or one. That's really what it is. So a binary idea can easily blend into an AI system. So whatever we are doing right now can be replicated by AI. Doesn't matter what field it is. Whether it's contracting or whether it's medicine or whether it's surgery, it really doesn't matter. Anything that's done on a binary intelligence can be replicated by AI. So what are the human beings left with? So we talked about a kind of a deeper intelligence that transcends human intelligence. You see, this is what the quantum science explains as potential, where everything is a potential, you know. Whereas right now we are dealing with everything as something that can be fit into a binary logic.
So, how do we utilize that for training or teaching?
See, the difference is we have to see everything as a potential, not everything as a possibility for reductionism. You see what I mean?
So instead
Uh,
of creating a finite system, we create an infinite system.
exactly. What is an infinite system?
It just goes on. It continues on. It will always
It
continue.
just, yeah, everything is the potential in infinity. Infinity. There is no definitions, there is no orders, there is no structures, there's nothing. In spiritual terms, it's called nothingness. It is called stillness. It is called in nada in among the Carmelites. Well, you take it into other religions, they talk about, they have different ways of defining it. But the point is, it is just rising above the limitations, by way of detaching yourself from what is limiting you. So it actually is a demand for your free will to transcend what is limiting you. That is why free will is given to us. If the free will is going to bring us back to what is limiting us, we are not exercising true free will. You see, free will is what allows you to transcend your limitations. That's what it is. Okay. Sure. That's a great question. This is what I discuss in my monthly seminars about conscious systems. In conscious systems, I go specifically into the areas of uh, looking at everything as a probability, not as something that as an input output system, but a system that consumes what it needs. In other words, replicate the natural systems you see out there in the universe. See, for instance, when you are trying to grow a tree, see, you cannot make the tree consume excess. It consumes what it needs. Okay, it doesn't matter. No matter what you give it to them, it only consumes what it needs. And if you overwhelm the tree will perish. See, that is how natural systems operate. It's the man-made systems operate on an input-output paradigm. You see, output is based on what you input. See, that paradigm ought to change. So how does the conscious system responsive to various kinds of uh, information that is available or intelligence that is available? So the systems become consumers of intelligence, not information. You see, so it's the future in computer science and computer technology, it's not about consuming information. The information age is gone, it's disappearing fast. Now it is becoming intelligent age. In this intelligent age, Intelligence is not fed, intelligence is consumed. So, can we develop systems where intelligence can be consumed? That is the key to developing conscious systems. That is one thing. And the second thing is it even goes deeper. You see, it kind of pretty much evolves around servant leadership. See, intelligence is not coming from top down, but it is coming from bottom up. See, when that intelligence is coming from bottom up, it really becomes a servant leadership. See, I'm going to give you one example. All right. Gandhi happens to be an incredible Christian, yet he is not a Christian. He is a Hindu. Why? Because he was a servant leader. See, he started a massive movement that transformed the country and delivered the country, from its captors. How did he do that? By becoming a servant leader. He didn't require capital. He didn't require any resources from anyone, except he was serving his followers. Same thing Christ taught us, didn't he? If you want to be a leader, be a servant. See, Christ taught us. Gandhi implemented it. See, that kind of a servant leadership should enter into our industries, where the rank and file is given so much importance and observed as the source intelligence for everything that evolves from it. You know, we don't need managers to handle exceptions. See, we need managers to learn from the people they manage. That's where the difference comes in. Does it make sense?
It does, but I would take it a step further and say that we don't need managers except to manage a process. We need leaders to listen to and to your point, learn from both directions. To learn from above, people who've been there and done that before, or people below them that are teaching them ways that they've never seen or never heard of before.
Yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely. You see, you know, oh gosh. Anyway, I'm kind of feeling that urge to talk a little bit about spirituality in this context. And, the relevance actually, we talk about ancient wisdom, it goes back to the time of Adam.
okay.
See, we are so biased towards describing Adam as a sinner. We fail to observe that was the perfect human specimen God created. And what was so perfect about it? We completely fail on that observation. There are two examples in Genesis about the greatness of Adam, the wisdom of Adam. And the first one is God is giving him plant bearing seeds and asking him to cultivate the land. You're talking about the Garden of Eden here. You're not talking about a plot behind your house. So, is it fair to assume that it could be thousands of acres? I think so. But you see, cultivating a land of that magnitude, it requires tools. When the Bible says God gave him plant bearing seeds are seasonal. You cannot learn everything about it and use it a couple of years down the line. The seed's effectiveness of the seed is gone. So here he has to do it within one season. Figure out everything about how to create tools, how to cultivate the land, how to harvest the land, all of those things in the absence of any heuristic knowledge, no records, no information, nothing was available to him. It's only based on his intuition from his wisdom. He managed to do all of that within one season. That was one. Come back to another one in Genesis. God is calling him and telling him, name all the animals in the field and birds in the air. How many you think there are? Birds and animals put together. Give me a number.
Tens of thousands.
Could it be a
No,
hundred?
tens of thousands.
Tens of thousands. See, naming them is easy, but it is meaningless unless you remember the name, isn't it? You have to remember the name.
True,
Otherwise, naming is
true.
meaningless.
But and let me throw this twist in there for you because I hear what
Yeah,
you're saying and I get it, but you're also assuming that there was not an initial download, for lack of a better term, there was not an initial download from from the higher power, God, to Adam.
that's exactly what
So,
wisdom is.
right? So you're assuming that, right? We're assuming that we're starting with an AI that is a flawed model. And I'm going to call Adam an AI, but we're because he started with a download. He had to start with some information. He had to start with something. Because to your point, he has to have thousands of words to come up with the names for the animals, right? And all of that. And by the way, I understand for those of you out there that are going to start piling on, I understand that things have evolved from things. So animals have evolved, right? Blah blah blah. All these things. So we didn't start out with the variety that we see today. There may have been less of a variety. That being said, he still had to come up with names for these all of these things. So he had to have a vocabulary that fit that. Number one. Number two, to your point about the fields and the harvest and all that other stuff, we don't know what climate was like. We don't know what all of these things and the downloads that he got for the information that he already had accessible to him. How does he even know how to plant? How does he even know how to cultivate? How does he even know what, you know, what's
What
poisonous and
names to
what's
give?
not and what works and what doesn't
Yeah,
and what
yeah.
requires this and what requires, right? There has to be an initial download. So when we're creating the AI, when we're creating this structure that we want to utilize as a tool, we have to understand that the information that we put in may be limited right now, but we have to continue to drive towards that infinite type of wisdom or that infinite type of knowledge. So we have to continue to utilize this information that we have from years gone by, from people like yourself who've come through the years and have done these different things, have experienced these different things, and I've come and I've experienced these different things. So we take all that information, we combine it. Now we've got an AI tool that's your wisdom and my wisdom, that's your knowledge and my knowledge, right? And so now you start to expand that and you say, well, there's millions of people. So, okay, we can take the millions of people and the information that they've seen and their paradigms and their understandings and now we can start to hopefully create something that is going to be, to your point, useful for infinite knowledge, not finite.
All right. You know, that
I
download.
keep throwing curveballs at you, Anthony. Careful.
No, 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 no. Actually, I mean, it's quite enlightening and it's very
But the question
refreshing.
has to be asked, right? Because I hear your
Yeah,
point
yeah,
about
yeah. No,
Adam, but at the same time, that information had to come from somewhere, whether it's free floating
guess
or
what?
not, right? Whether
Guess
because
what?
wisdom is, and people are not going to like this. Wisdom is free floating. Wisdom is out there. It's energy. It's things that are available to everyone. You come up with an idea that may have passed through my field, right? I may have seen it, I may have thought of it, I may have heard it, but you took it and you said, yes, I can use this. And now you did something with it. I didn't do anything with it. So now you become this millionaire who came up with this great idea to turn a bookstore into an online warehouse, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But you see what I'm saying? It's
Chris, yeah, Chris, let me kind of, address this now. Because because you see, wisdom is not something that is out there.
okay.
Okay. That
Tell me different.
that download
Tell me
you
different then.
the download you the download you already have it. Okay. It's just a way of tapping into it. It's just a way of going back into it. Let me explain this. See, you learned English from that download. How old were you when you learned English? Not even 2 years old. All the vocabularies, everything that you need, um, about English, it just came to you before you were even 2 years old. See, after that, you started schooling and you started all of that, and they taught you what English is. They taught you how to learn English. They taught you grammar. They taught you structures. They taught you all kinds of reductionism about learning a language. See, now if you were to learn, let's say Spanish, how long that it takes? Something you managed to do by the time you were 2 years old. It takes you years now. See, that is the difference between conventional learning and being observant to the download you are already born with. So, wisdom that we are talking about, it is not ancient, it is not out there, it is within you, it is timeless, it is spaceless. You already have it for what you need to do. How do you tap into it again? How do you go back to that again? That's really where the challenge comes in. And we have the tool to do it. That is meditation, that is prayer, that is spirituality. That will take you to the wisdom that you already are. You have it. Adam had it. Jesus had it. See, there is one example I'm going to give you about Jesus. Philip is asking him, I want to see my Father. Show me your Father. Show me the Father in heaven. And for that, Jesus replies, Philip, haven't you seen me? I see what my Father is doing, and that's what I do. If you have seen me, you have seen my Father. See, Jesus is describing the quantum entanglement here between the Father and the Son. We are also children of God. According to God, we are children of God. So, whatever Jesus had, that is ability to see what the Father is doing, it empowered him to do his ministry work when he was on earth. Can we do the same thing? Can we experience that entanglement with God? See, when we can do that, then innovation, creativity, and everything is inherent. We already have it. It's just a matter of How do we tap into it? That is what spirituality and tapping into ancient wisdom and all of that help us do. Does it make sense? So can we become co creators with God? Yeah, a lot of Christians are going to say that, it's a blasphemy. It's not. Because Jesus, when he said this to Philip, he did not claim himself to be an exception. In all his ministry, he never claimed himself to be an exception. I'm God, that's why I'm doing this, that's how I'm able to do it. You cannot. He never said that. He said, anything I can do, you can also do it. You can even do greater things than I do. That is according to Jesus. If we are failing to understand that, it is not blasphemy, it is so much naivety, and we are so caught up in our ordinary human intelligence, fragmented intelligence. That's where the humanity is going. Even though Jesus died to restore in us the life of Adam in us and gave us that kind of a wisdom as a download to start with which we learned our first language, we are not able to go back to it, because we are so caught up in a sort of an intelligence that computer systems can easily take over. So, who are we as human beings from then on? It's a question every one of us should think about.